Welcome to Zoe Crossdressing. From boy to school's most gorgeous girl overnight. Brandon studied his reflection, hardly recognizing the person staring back. Something about him felt off, like he was slowly becoming a stranger in his own skin. He traced a finger along his jaw, still too sharp, too real. His brown hair fell in uneven strands, deliberately unkempt, an easy way to stay unnoticed. His mom's voice floated up from the kitchen, breaking the spell. Brandon slung his backpack over his shoulder and hurried downstairs. The heaviness in his chest wasn't about classes or homework, and he had no words for it. "Your dad called last night," she said. "He might come by next month." Brandon froze mid-bite. Perfect. She kept talking about how he was trying, how things could get better. The eggs tasted wrong, but Brandon forced them down, grabbed an apple, and headed for the door. "I've gotta go." The Florida heat smacked in the second he stepped outside, the air thick and damp. By the time he reached the sidewalk, his gray shirt clung to him. 15 minutes to school. 15 minutes to brace himself for another year of acting like everything was fine. Lincoln High rose ahead, a stretch of glass and concrete shimmering in the August sun. Groups of students laughed near the entrance, trading schedules and summer memories. Brandon kept his head down and made for his locker. "Hey, B-man." A hand landed on his shoulder. "Dude, what's going on with your hair?" Brandon turned to see Marcus flashing his usual grin, basketball shorts sagging low despite the school's so-called rules. They'd been tight since middle school, back when Brandon still pretended to care about points and playoffs. "Didn't feel like cutting it," Brandon said. Marcus snorted. "Looks like you stole your sister's shampoo. All glossy and stuff." Warmth crept up Brandon's neck. "I don't have a sister." "Figure of speech, man." Marcus bumped his shoulder. "Come on, let's check schedules." They stood outside the main office, papers in hand. Brandon noticed it again, advanced drama, 4th period. Some scheduling glitch he never bothered fixing. Marcus let out a low whistle. "Drama? Since when?" "Computer messed up," Brandon muttered. Marcus shrugged. "Hey, whatever. You coming to tryouts after school? Coach wants to see potential JV players." "Can't. Got stuff." "Your loss," Marcus said, already backing away. The morning blurred. 1st period crawled by as Mrs. Henderson lectured about calculus like it was sacred scripture. Brandon filled his notebook margins with quick sketches, skirts, flowing shapes, scratched out the second he sensed movement nearby. 2nd period was just as bad. By lunch, the tight feeling in his stomach felt solid and heavy. The cafeteria hummed with noise. Brandon claimed an empty table by the windows and peeled open his sandwich. "Mind if I sit?" He looked up. A girl stood there holding a tray, dressed in black jeans and a purple band tee that clashed hard with the pastel crowd. Pink streaks ran through her blonde hair, definitely rule-breaking. Before he answered, she dropped into the seat. "I'm Casey. Just moved here from Michigan." "Brandon." She gestured around. "So what's the deal with this place? Any survival tips?" He thought for a second. "Depends. What do you like?" "Music, mostly. Played bass in a band back home." "And drama, that's why I asked." "I'm signed up 4th period." Brandon blinked. "Same." "Into theater?" "Not really. Didn't choose it." Casey smirked. "Could be worse. Beats calculus." She poked at her salad. "Even the food tastes wrong here. Everything's off." "You get used to it," Brandon said, though he wasn't sure it was true. "Hope so. My mom dragged me down for work. Better opportunities, blah blah." She scanned the room. "At least people seem mostly normal." "My old school was." The bell cut her off. Brandon stood, tossing his trash, surprised by how much he wished the conversation could keep going. "See you in drama," Casey called as he walked away. Third period crawled just like the rest. When the bell finally rang, Brandon headed toward the theater wing. The classroom turned out to be a black box space, risers along one wall, a small stage marked by tape. Students drifted in, chatting about auditions and summer shows. "Welcome, welcome." The teacher swept in wearing layered scarves and clinking bracelets. "I'm M. Rodriguez, and this is advanced drama. If you're here by accident, now's your chance to escape." A few kids laughed. Brandon stayed where he was, too curious, or maybe too tired to move. Casey caught his eye from the risers and waved. "All right," Rodriguez said. "Introductions. Name, and one thing you want to explore this semester." Answers bounced around the room. When it reached Brandon, his thoughts evaporated. "I'm Brandon," he said. "Anne. I don't really know yet." "Perfect," Rodriguez replied warmly. "Theater is about finding out. You may surprise yourself." They spent the rest of class on warm-ups and improv. Brandon ended up paired with Casey, acting out a scene about two strangers waiting at a bus stop. For the first time all day, the knot in his stomach loosened just a little. "Where are you going?" Casey asked, staying in character. "Off to somewhere different?" Brandon answered before he had time to filter himself. "Somewhere I don't have to pretend." She studied him, then said quietly, "So what's keeping you here?" The words hovered between them. Brandon hesitated, searching for a safe reply. "People," he said at last. "They already decided who I'm supposed to be." Casey scoffed, stretching out on the invisible bench. "Forget that. Life's way too short to live as someone else's blueprint." And scene. M. Rodriguez clapped her hands, beaming. "Excellent work." There was real subtext there. "Brandon, that honesty? That's powerful." Color rushed to his face. He hadn't planned on letting anything real slip out. After the final bell, Brandon skipped the gym and went straight home. The house was quiet, his mom still at work. He went upstairs and stood in front of his closet. Pushed behind thick winter coats, zipped carefully inside a garment bag, was the dress. He'd ordered it online last year, pulse racing as he typed in his mom's card details. When the package arrived, he'd sprinted it upstairs, hiding it before anyone could notice. He'd worn it only once, late at night, door locked, curtains shut. The fabric made a soft sound as he pulled it free. A deep blue, almost black in low light. Simple, modest, falling just below the knees. Nothing dramatic, just honest. He spread it across his bed and stared. The garage door growled open downstairs. Panic shot through him. Brandon shoved the dress back into its hiding place and grabbed a textbook, flipping it open just as his mom knocked. "How was school?" "Fine. Normal." She raised an eyebrow. "That's it? New teachers? Classes?" He thought of Ms. Rodriguez and the clinking bracelets. Drama might actually be interesting. "Drama," she said, surprised. "That's new." "Yeah. I might try out for the fall play." She paused in the doorway. "You know, if something's on your mind, we can talk. About anything." The closet door seemed to glow. "I'm okay," Brandon said quickly. "Just tired." "All right. Dinner in an hour." The days began to blur. Drama class became the one place Brandon felt lighter, especially as Ms. Rodriguez pushed them through exercises meant to strip away masks. Casey claimed the seat across from him at lunch most days, filling the air with stories about her old band and constant complaints about Florida heat. One afternoon she squinted at him. "You should let your hair grow more." He touched it instinctively. "My mom keeps asking when I'm cutting it." "Don't," Casey said. "It works on you. Ever think about actually styling it? Brandon laughed nervously. I wouldn't even know how. YouTube, she said confidently. Trust me. It has answers. That night, Brandon fell into a spiral of hair tutorials, before and afters, styling tips, quiet transformations. He watched, transfixed, as people on the screen became closer to who they wanted to be. Small tweaks, tiny adjustments, yet the results were dramatic. Brandon's hands twitched with the urge to experiment, but the house felt too cramped, too easy for someone to walk in unannounced. Friday brought an announcement in drama class. Monologues, Ms. Rodriguez declared, waving a thick bundle of pages. You'll each choose one and perform it in 2 weeks. One rule, pick something that scares you. I want you outside your comfort zone. Brandon scanned the scripts. Most were familiar, neatly divided by gender. His attention kept sliding to the other stack. Can we? His throat tightened. Can we choose from either pile? Ms. Rodriguez smiled. Absolutely. Gender-blind casting has been part of theater forever. Anyone else interested? A few hands went up. Before he could rethink it, Brandon reached out and grabbed a page from the women's side. A streetcar named Desire? Casey whispered, peeking over. Blanche DuBois. That's bold. Go big or go home, Brandon muttered, unsure whether he meant it. After school, he stayed behind in the theater. The room was empty, lights dimmed low, the air thick with dust and echoes. He read the monologue aloud. His voice bounced back at him, unfamiliar. It wasn't just the accent, it was the vulnerability, Blanche's hunger to be admired, to be wanted. I don't want realism. I want magic. The line caught in his chest. He tried again, raising his pitch. It sounded wrong. Forced. Embarrassing. This was a mistake. He'd talked to Ms. Rodriguez on Monday. Switch pieces. Something safer. Don't push it up here, a voice said gently. Use your diaphragm. Brandon whirled around. Ms. Rodriguez stood in the doorway, arms piled with costume odds and ends. Sorry, she said. Didn't mean to startle you. I was dropping these off. She noticed the script. Blanche? Trying, Brandon said. It's not really working. She nodded toward the risers. Mind if I sit? He shook his head, and she took a seat. Blanche is all performance, she said. Her voice, her manners, their armor. She's not trying to sound feminine. She's trying to survive. Start with why she speaks that way, not how. I don't think I get it. She's building an identity. Performing femininity as she understands it. Actors do that all the time. Brandon tried the line again, focusing on intention instead of pitch. It still felt awkward, but less wrong. Better, Ms. Rodriguez said. Keep at it. She paused at the door. And Brandon, if using a costume helps you find the character, the closet's open. Just ask. The words lingered long after she left. Brandon walked home in a daze. His mom's car was already in the driveway. There you are, she called. I got off early. Thought we'd have a real dinner for once. They ate spaghetti and chatted about nothing that mattered. Brandon's thoughts kept drifting, to fabric, to mirrors, to possibilities he didn't yet have names for. Upstairs, he texted Casey. Help. I think I chose a monologue that's way over my head. Her reply came fast. Practice tomorrow? My place is parent-free till 6. Brandon stared at the screen. Practicing meant committing, standing in front of everyone as Blanche. But Casey was the closest thing to a real friend he'd had in years. Address? He typed back. Saturday dawned gray and sticky, the kind of day that promised storms. Brandon told his mom he was studying and walked the 6 blocks to Casey's house. She opened the door in ripped jeans and an oversized flannel, completely ignoring the heat. "Welcome to Casa Chaos," she said, waving him inside. The living room was crowded with half-unpacked boxes, a house still figuring out what it was going to be, just like him. "Minimalist chic," Casey declared. They set up in her bedroom, which had far more life than the rest of the house combined. Band posters plastered the walls, corners curling with age, and a bass guitar rested against the desk like it belonged there. Casey flopped onto the bed. "All right," she said. "Let's hear it." Brandon started the monologue, stumbling through lines, stopping to correct himself, starting over again. Casey listened quietly, no teasing, no impatience. "You're stuck in your head," she said finally. "Try this." She rummaged through a box and pulled out a silky scarf. "Put this on." Brandon blinked. "Why?" "Because sometimes a prop unlocks things." Blanche would absolutely wear scarves. Feeling foolish, Brandon draped it over his shoulders. When he began again, his fingers found the fabric, twisting it, smoothing it, something instinctive clicked. His movements softened. The words flowed more easily. Casey grinned. "See? Huge difference." She tilted her head. "What else do you think would help you feel like her?" The question cracked something open. Brandon hesitated. "Maybe different clothes." Casey studied him, then disappeared down the hallway. She came back with a small stack of clothing. "My mom's about your size," she said casually. "She won't miss these for a couple hours." A skirt. A blouse. Simple. Ordinary. Brandon's hands trembled. "I can't," he said. "Why not?" "It's just us." "I'll turn around if you want." "It's not that." He struggled for words. How could he explain that putting them on felt like stepping into a version of himself he might not be able to leave behind? Casey's voice softened. "No pressure." "Really? You just looked interested yesterday when Rodriguez mentioned the costume closet." She had noticed. Of course she had. After a long moment, Brandon took the clothes. "Bathroom?" "Down the hall." "Take your time." He locked the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. The clothes waited on the counter, harmless and folded. Just fabric, he told himself. Just for the monologue. He changed quickly, before doubt could stop him. The skirt slid into place. The blouse fit better than he expected. The mirror reflected someone unfamiliar, and yet deeply recognizable. His auburn hair framed his face differently now. Softer. Truer. A knock startled him. "You okay?" "Yeah." "1 second." When Brandon stepped out, Casey's expression shifted, from concern to something like quiet recognition. "Wow," she said. "You look," she stopped herself. "How do you feel?" "I don't know," Brandon admitted. Fear tangled with relief, threaded through with something dangerously close to happiness. "Well," Casey said gently, "you look really good. Come on. Let's run it." They worked through the monologue for nearly an hour. The clothes changed everything. Brandon moved differently without thinking, crossing his ankles, gesturing with grace he'd always held back. Blanche's words finally made sense in his body. When Casey finally called a break, Brandon didn't want it to end. "That was amazing," she said. "You didn't act her, you were her." Brandon smoothed the skirt, reluctant. "It feels right." "You can keep them on a bit," Casey said. "Like I said, no parents till 6. They talked afterward, about bands, old schools, nothing important and everything at once. Slowly, the clothes stopped feeling like a disguise and started feeling natural. "Can I ask you something?" Casey said quietly. "This isn't just about a monologue, is it?" Brandon swallowed. "No." "That's okay," she said immediately. You know that, right? Tears stung his eyes. When he finally changed back, the jeans and gray t-shirt felt heavy, confining. He folded the borrowed clothes carefully and handed them to her. Thank you, he said. For everything. Casey smiled. Anytime. Anytime, Casey had said, and she meant it. On the walk home, Brandon felt strangely exposed, even though he was back in his usual jeans and gray shirt. Every passerby seemed like a potential witness, as if they could somehow see what he'd done, who he'd been, just hours earlier. But no one stared. No one stopped him. The sky didn't crack open. Life kept moving. Dinner passed quietly. His mom sat at the table with patient charts spread beside her plate, half eating, half working. Brandon nudged his food around, thoughts drifting far from spaghetti. You're quiet tonight, she said without looking up. Just thinking about school. The monologue, she asked. How's that going? It's hard. She set her pen down. I did theater in high school, you know? I played Emily in our town. She smiled faintly. If you ever want to practice, I could help. Brandon nodded, throat tight. That night, sleep wouldn't come. He stared at the ceiling while Casey's words replayed in his mind. Whoever you want to be. Wanting felt dangerous. Wanting wasn't the same as becoming. How could he ever explain, to his mom, to his distant father, to the world, that the version of Brandon everyone knew wasn't the full truth? He opened his phone and typed a message to Casey. Deleted it. Tried again. After several false starts, he finally sent. Thank you. Her reply came instantly. For what? For seeing me. Always. Now sleep. Sunday slipped by in a fog of homework and nervous energy. The monologue hovered in the background, but it felt smaller than the quiet upheaval inside him. With his door locked, Brandon practiced alone, letting Blanche take over completely when no one could watch. On Monday, drama class shifted gears. We're workshopping monologues, Ms. Rodriguez announced. Small groups. Remember, feedback is a gift. Be honest, but be kind. Brandon ended up with Casey, plus Jordan, a senior who seemed permanently cast, and Maria, whose flawless soprano made her an obvious future lead. Who's first? Jordan asked. I'll go, Maria said, launching into Juliet's balcony speech with effortless confidence. Beautiful, Jordan said. A little safe. He followed with Hamlet, dark and intense. Casey glanced at Brandon. You're up. His legs felt unsteady as he stood. The opening line sounded stiff, wrong, but then something loosened. He remembered the weight of the skirt, the soft pull of fabric, the way Blanche clung to illusion because reality hurt too much. I don't want realism, he said, voice steady now. I want magic. Yes, magic. I try to give that to people. I don't tell the truth. I tell what ought to be truth. The room went quiet. That was, Jordan paused. Really exposed. You get her. The voice needs refinement, Maria added gently, but the emotion landed. I thought it was perfect, Casey said without hesitation. Perfect. The word echoed long after they moved on. After class, Ms. Rodriguez stopped him in the hallway. What you did today, that took courage. It didn't feel like courage, Brandon admitted. It felt terrifying. She smiled knowingly. That's usually how bravery feels. Then, more softly, my offer about the costume closet still stands. Sometimes the outside helps us reach the truth inside. He nodded, unable to speak. The week crept forward. Drama became his anchor, each exercise peeling back layers, each character revealing something new. Brandon threw himself into it, discovering pieces of himself through other people's stories. Casey was always there, lunches together, late-night texts, shared silence that felt safe. By Thursday, she nudged his shoulder. My mom wants to meet you. I might have talked about you a lot. Brandon blinked. What did you say? That you're my best friend here, she said easily. That you're funny, talented, and figuring things out. She bumped him again, smiling, and for once, Brandon didn't feel like hiding. All true things, best friend. The words settled warmly in Brandon's chest, easing something tight he hadn't realized was there. Friday afternoon found them back in the theater. Ms. Rodriguez had signed off on after-school rehearsal, leaving the space quiet and theirs. Brandon stood on the small stage while Casey lounged in the front row, feet hooked over a chair. Remember, she called up to him, Blanche is performing femininity, but there's honesty under the act. Brandon nodded and began again, sinking into the rhythm of the monologue. Halfway through, footsteps echoed from the wings. He faltered as Jordan stepped out from backstage. Sorry, Jordan said. Didn't realize anyone was in here. I forgot my script. Jordan paused, watching. You're really leaning into Blanche. Trying to, Brandon said carefully. Mind if I watch? Extra audience never hurts. Brandon glanced at Casey. She gave a casual shrug. Go for it. He restarted, acutely aware of Jordan's eyes at first, but as the lines unfolded, that awareness faded. When he finished, the silence broke with slow clapping. That's going to wreck people, Jordan said. You found something real. Thanks, Brandon replied, tugging at his sleeves. It's just acting. Jordan tilted his head. Is it? I've been doing theater 4 years. The performances that land hardest are the ones where actors bring themselves into it. Whatever you're tapping into, it works. After Jordan left, Brandon dropped onto the edge of the stage. Casey joined him, close enough that their shoulders brushed. You okay? She asked. I don't know if I can do this, he admitted. Standing up there in front of everyone. As Blanche, she said gently, or as you? The question hit deep. Both, Brandon said. Or neither. I don't even know who me is right now. Casey bumped his shoulder lightly. Maybe that's fine. Maybe figuring it out is the point. They sat there until the janitor flicked the lights and shooed them out. Walking home, Brandon felt the performance looming like a weight in his gut. 2 weeks had turned into one. Ready or not, Monday was coming. Saturday brought complications he hadn't planned for. His father called that morning, his usual brief check-in. Your mom says you're taking drama now. Yeah. That's unexpected. You sure that's smart? Sends the wrong signal. Brandon's hand tightened around the phone. What signal? You know what I mean. Look, I get that the divorce messed things up, but acting out isn't the solution. I'm not acting out, Brandon snapped. I'm literally acting, in a class. Don't get clever with me. I'm still your father. When it suits you, Brandon said. Silence stretched between them, filled with his father's heavy breathing. I'm trying here, his dad finally said. But you've got to meet me halfway. This phase, the hair, the drama classes, people notice. People talk. Let them. It's not that simple. You have to think long-term. College. Jobs. Brandon ended the call. His hands shook as he set the phone down. It rang again almost immediately, but he ignored it. His mother appeared in the doorway. Was that your father? Yeah. Want to talk about it? Not really. She sat beside him anyway. He does care, even if he shows it badly. Brandon stared at the floor, feeling the distance between who he was expected to be and who he was becoming stretch wider by the day. All true things, best friend. The words settled warmly in Brandon's chest, easing something tight he hadn't realized was there. Friday afternoon found them back in the theater. Ms. Rodriguez had signed off on after-school rehearsal, leaving the space quiet and theirs. Brandon stood on the small stage while Casey lounged in the front row, feet hooked over a chair. "Remember," she called up to him, "Blanche is performing femininity, but there's honesty under the act." Brandon nodded and began again, sinking into the rhythm of the monologue. Halfway through, footsteps echoed from the wings. He faltered as Jordan stepped out from backstage. "Sorry," Jordan said. "Didn't realize anyone was in here. I forgot my script." Jordan paused, watching. "You're really leaning into Blanche." "Trying to," Brandon said carefully. "Mind if I watch?" "Extra audience never hurts." Brandon glanced at Casey. She gave a casual shrug. "Go for it." He restarted, acutely aware of Jordan's eyes at first, but as the lines unfolded, that awareness faded. When he finished, the silence broke with slow clapping. "That's going to wreck people," Jordan said. "You found something real." "Thanks," Brandon replied, tugging at his sleeves. "It's just acting." Jordan tilted his head. "Is it? I've been doing theater 4 years. The performances that land hardest are the ones where actors bring themselves into it. Whatever you're tapping into, it works." After Jordan left, Brandon dropped onto the edge of the stage. Casey joined him, close enough that their shoulders brushed. "You okay?" she asked. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. "Standing up there in front of everyone." "As Blanche," she said gently, "or as you?" The question hit deep. "Both," Brandon said. "Or neither. I don't even know who me is right now." Casey bumped his shoulder lightly. "Maybe that's fine. Maybe figuring it out is the point." They sat there until the janitor flicked the lights and shooed them out. Walking home, Brandon felt the performance looming like a weight in his gut. 2 weeks had turned into one. Ready or not, Monday was coming. Saturday brought complications he hadn't planned for. His father called that morning, his usual brief check-in. "Your mom says you're taking drama now." "Yeah. That's unexpected." "You sure that's smart?" "Sends the wrong signal." Brandon's hand tightened around the phone. "What signal?" "You know what I mean. Look, I get that the divorce messed things up, but acting out isn't the solution." "I'm not acting out," Brandon snapped. "I'm literally acting, in a class. Don't get clever with me. I'm still your father." "When it suits you," Brandon said. Silence stretched between them, filled with his father's heavy breathing. "I'm trying here," his dad finally said. "But you've got to meet me halfway. This phase, the hair, the drama classes, people notice. People talk. Let them. It's not that simple. You have to think long-term. College. Jobs." Brandon ended the call. His hands shook as he set the phone down. It rang again almost immediately, but he ignored it. His mother appeared in the doorway. "Was that your father?" "Yeah." "Want to talk about it?" "Not really." She sat beside him anyway. He does care, even if he shows it badly. Brandon stared at the floor, feeling the distance between who he was expected to be and who he was becoming stretch wider by the day. She walked toward the stage on legs that barely felt like her own. Faces blurred together, classmates watching with curiosity, boredom, kindness, until she found Casey in the third row, smiling like an anchor. "Whenever you're ready," Ms. Rodriguez said gently. Brandon closed her eyes. She thought of the dress hidden in her closet. Of Casey calling her Tiffany like it was the most natural thing in the world. Of her mother once saying, "I see you," even if she hadn't yet known what that meant. When her eyes opened, Blanche stood in her place. "I don't want realism. I want magic." The words spilled out, unfiltered and aching. Her voice rose and fell where it wanted to, no forcing, no shrinking. Her hands moved freely, shaping the air as if it could hold dreams. When she spoke of kindness from strangers, her gaze found Casey. When she talked about building a beautiful illusion to survive inside, she imagined the self she was still becoming. The final line landed. For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Then applause burst out, not the polite kind, but loud and real. Someone whistled. Jordan, grinning from the back row. Ms. Rodriguez waited for the noise to fade. Exceptional, she said. You captured her core, the need to be seen as she chooses to be, not as the world demands. That's advanced work. Truly. Brandon, no, Tiffany, returned to her seat on trembling legs. Casey squeezed her hand beneath the desk. Told you, she whispered. Perfect. After class, people stopped her with praise. Maria admitted she'd gotten chills. Jordan suggested auditioning for the fall play. Ms. Rodriguez caught her at the door. I'm proud of you, she said. That took courage. It felt like being myself, Tiffany said softly. Or, not myself. I'm not sure anymore. Ms. Rodriguez smiled. Sometimes those are the same thing. And remember, my door's always open. For theater, or anything else. The rest of the day passed in a glow. Casey dragged Tiffany to the mall to celebrate with questionable food court Chinese and aimless wandering. They ended up in a clothing store, Casey holding up sweaters and skirts with mock seriousness. Hypothetically, she said, this would look amazing on you. Tiffany brushed her fingers over a soft burgundy cardigan. Maybe someday. Whenever you're ready, Casey said easily. No pressure. As the sun dipped low, they parted ways. Tiffany walked home lighter than she had felt in months. The performance was done. She hadn't just survived, it had mattered. At home, her mother waited with dinner and questions. Tiffany shared the highlights, skipping the deeper truths. Ms. Rodriguez thinks I should audition for the fall play. That's wonderful, her mom said. Will you? Maybe. I'm thinking about it. I'm glad, she said warmly. You seem happy. That night, Tiffany stood before her closet and pulled out the dress. Navy blue. Soft. Honest. This time, she didn't lock the door. If her mother walked in, then maybe it was time. The dress still fit perfectly. Tiffany, she whispered to her reflection. Just here. Just for now. Her auburn hair framed her face in a way that finally made sense. There was so much to learn: makeup, movement, everything, but for this moment, it was enough. A knock came, gentle. Sweetheart? Can I come in? Her heart raced, fear and relief colliding. Yeah. Her mother stepped inside and froze. A dozen emotions crossed her face before settling into something tender and sure. Oh, honey. Mom, Tiffany barely got the word out before she was pulled into a fierce embrace. She broke then, sobbing as comforting hands smoothed her hair. How long? Her mother asked quietly once the tears slowed. Always, Tiffany whispered. I think always. Okay, her mom said softly. Okay. She pulled back, studying her daughter's face. We'll figure this out together. Whatever you need. I don't even know where to start. Her mother smiled gently. How about your name? I don't think Brandon fits anymore. Tiffany sucked in a breath. How did you? Mother's intuition, she said. And you've been writing it in your homework margins for weeks. Heat rushed to Tiffany's cheeks. Tiffany, she said. I want to be Tiffany. Her mother smiled through her own tears. It's beautiful. It suits you. They didn't solve everything that night. They didn't talk about doctors or school or her father. Tiffany asked for one thing only. Can tonight just be okay? Of course, her mom said. Do you want to change? I'd like to stay like this a little longer. Then stay. They spent the evening together in the kitchen, Tiffany learning to move in the dress while her mother shared stories from her youth. It felt unreal and perfectly normal. When exhaustion finally won, Tiffany changed into pajamas reluctantly. Mom? Her mother paused at the door. Thank you for not freaking out. She kissed Tiffany's forehead. I've known something was hurting you for a while. The pretending. I love you, exactly as you are. Tiffany fell asleep smiling. Morning came with reality. She woke as Brandon again, at least on the outside. Her mother had coffee ready, her expression calm and steady. How are you feeling? Like it was all a dream. It wasn't, her mom said. When you're ready, we'll talk about what comes next. For now, school as usual. Yeah, Tiffany said quietly. I'm not ready yet. That's okay, her mother replied. This is your timeline. And for the first time, Tiffany believed that.